report and recommendations from the Maori Committee, and we will hear from the Chairman about the hearing committee appointments directly now.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, the Maori Committee meet for an hour or so before morning tea, with the exclusion of people who can't understand Te Reo, because it's all held in Te Reo, otherwise they would be very welcome. I just want to bring up a couple of matters that unfortunately for sometimes the committee Maori Committee feel that because they've resolved those matters, they shouldn't go into the after 10 o'clock meeting. And the first one that we did talk about was the input of Helen over the years, and just like on behalf of the Maori Committee, thank you very much. If you have if there is a criticism, and that's from me because you've been bending over too far backwards, and if you're involved in any Maori issues, you've got to realise how long is a length of string. It's endless. But thank you very much, and especially your work with Plan Change 6, very much appreciated. The second thing that we talked about just before 10 o'clock was the tank process, and last week I attended a meeting of the Tangata Whenua group with the facilitator Robin Wynne-Lewis and Gavin Adey. Now it was to talk about procedural matter within the committee, but it became very obvious there that Gavin is held in very high regard by the Māori members, and that I made the suggestion that he attends their pre-meeting, which is usually about a week before the tank meeting, that he attends for an hour or so to answer questions and update them. And that's a little bit like where some of the sometimes unspoken criticism of the Regional Planning Committee Māori members is that they're not up to speed, and that would give that Tangata Whenua group a better opportunity when they come along to be more conversant with the issues that are coming up in the agenda. I did stress to the Māori members of that committee how important it was that they don't agree with something, they don't throw all the toys out and walk out of the room, because this is a really important forum, and if it explodes and it's their fault, they're in for the alternative, which is legal litigation and just a long drawn out process, and we'll spend most of our treaty money giving it to the lawyers. And in terms of continuity, I said, look, it's really important. I know you've had 17 or 18 meetings, but it's important that you have the same people coming through. I know there's going to be an application to the tank forum itself to add yet another Māori member. When that was explained on how that person is going to fit in and who they would be representing, you know, I can understand it from a Māori point of view, but it is going to be difficult for some of the tank committee to actually agree to that. So yeah, that's just a little bit of the so-called preamble. At the main meeting, I'd also like to thank Fenton for attending the last sitting of the Regional Planning Committee bill that was passed. It was excellent news. And also congratulate him on getting a kiss from the Maori MP for this district. It was greeted with good news, the fact that next week a senior Māori planner and advisor on Māori policy, there will be a selection process for that person. Another thing of great interest was the Pātaka presentation by Esther, which is a IT, what's the word, dialogue, or what's the word, somebody over there, clever? Pardon? Portal? That's a Māori word, isn't it? Portal. On contacts throughout the Hawke's Bay region for various marae, and Maori entities. That was seen as something that's really important, and it was stressed to the Maori committee that that it be continually updated, and the best information is stuff that's continually updated. Where are we? And also the flooding at Ohuia, which is one of the bigger lakes in the Wairoa district, was discussed, and I'd like to thank Mike Odie and his response to that. Ngā Whenua planted 4,000 or 5,000 plants around the lake edge, and because the outlet to sea was blocked, they were in danger of being wiped out. And within 24 hours, Mike Odie had the digger there to alleviate that process. So thank you very much, sir. And that's about it. Thank you.
Further questions? Committee members, any comment? No? Wish to move? Do you accept?
Could I ask Councillor Scott to talk on the hearing members within the paper? That the reason for extending from 3 to 4.
It's a case that was put to the committee, Mr. Chairman, that the reason that they put forward 4 members was they did not want to divide amongst themselves and wanted to be fair to everybody. And as I have already mentioned, there is always going to be some of those members conflicted, so it's good to have a full.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, it's not a matter of us being on the hearings committee, it was just a matter of us being available for hearings. We just didn't want to exclude one of the 4 that's done the course. And so could I also make an apology for next month's regional planning committee that I won't be attending because I'll be doing the refresher course in Wellington. So that's the reason I won't be here.
Someone happy to move then? We accept the report. Thank you, Councillor Graham. We seconder and Councillor Scott. Further discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Thank you. Oh, Tukituki plan change 6 adoption. Been waiting to say that for a few years. Hand that over to Scotland.
Thank you. Not as long as it could have been. So thank you. It's great to be part of this sort of, I guess, final milestone for the Tukituki plan change process. So as you're aware, the Board of Inquiry released its final decision on the 25th of June, and those changes together with the main decision as well as sort of minor corrections that were done through the process are reflected in the attachments as the final plan change 6 that will be incorporated into the regional resource management plan. So again, there are 2 new chapters, 5.9 and 6.9 being the rules and those schedule maps. So over the next month or so, Gavin and the team will be getting those documents together and making them available online within the context of the plan as well as the in the hard copy documents. So the council's job, I guess, today is to adopt the amended plan as per the RMA and to make it operative by giving notice in the paper, and I've indicated or proposed operative date of the 1st of October 2015. So just in terms of I guess some comments around the process, it was very quick for a plan change process, albeit through a EPA Board of Inquiry process from really the starting point of integrating the Tukituki catchment proposal, or the 2 plan change and the RWSS, into a single approach in June 2012 to here, more or less June 2015, 3 years to get through that process. So a huge amount of work has been put into it by a whole lot of staff, as well as external consultancy who were as committed to the process as the staff were. I have to say, probably that sort of process is not sustainable in terms of staff workload and pressure. but it was the appropriate process for that proposal. It is the first of the catchment-based plan changes, so there are a number of new provisions within the plan, which you are all fully familiar with, are listed there, but it does reflect the complexity of the implementation plan that now has to be worked on. So really, the work starts now, and you've been aware of the business case being put up to a long-term plan, and the amount of sort of support, the procedural support, the knowledge support that needs to go on now to actually give effect to the plan can't be underestimated. But hopefully that learning will also transfer to the future plan processes, so they won't be as intense in terms of implementation. So the recommendation is to to adopt the amended Tukituki Plan Change 6 and the subsequent amendments to the Regional Resource Management Plan, and to make it operative by giving public notice on the 22nd of September. That's when the public notice will be, for the 1st of October operative date. And if I could just, I guess, take the opportunity before you go into questions or discussion, I guess in terms of, my parting comment around these plan change processes and the discussion that you had this morning, there's no doubt that there are the complexities of the plan processes and the rigidity that is within those processes, and they're not very adaptable, and you sort of had an experience of that this morning. And I have to say that for the record, I think the outcome of that process, that decision was a good one, because there was a multiple strand of approaches to deal with the issue. And that's why over the past 5 years or 8 years, we have moved from a resource management policy title section to a strategy and planning. So knowing that there are other ways of addressing problems that are not just within our regional plan. Regional plans or RPSs are a tool, but they're not the only thing that can actually solve problems. The national policy statement has elevated their role though, and their priority around their need, and that process is still a complex process. And I think the continuum of that will be from, in terms of the process councils might choose to take, would be from reasonably complex to very complex. And I would say TANK is a very complex process that we have taken on to try and reach a point where the plan will, as best as possible, be successful in terms of achieving the outcomes that the community wants. But again, it's that, is that sustainable for all types of processes? And I guess to use the words that Stephen Faber used this morning, but in terms of plan, there's no such thing as a perfect plan. So you have to work with what you've got, make a call, and know that there are, while their processes are usually cumbersome, that there is a way of fixing it down the track, or improving it, continuing to improve it down the track. So I guess I wish you guys well in the future, and the Maori members of the Regional Planning Committee, with the huge workload you've got in front of you for the next 10 years. And so all the best for those challenges.
I'm not sure that's that funny. Can I start with a question? I mean, this is a very short paper, so I've got 2 questions actually. It's a very simple recommendation. We don't have any choices, do we? We either adopt this and carry on, or there's no choice. Okay. And so the second question, I'm just trying to preempt some stuff here, is we could ask 50, 100 questions around the plan today, but actually it will be the task of staff to continually update us on how we're implementing, how things are going. I mean, and I'm not trying to stifle too much conversation today, but I'm just putting it out there that actually it is what it is today. The real work actually happens now in how we implement it and how we, conduct that dialogue with our community, etc.
Exactly, and that's why we've put an item on the RPC agenda to cover off this part of the process, but also to reflect that the important part is still to be done now in terms of implementation, and through the implementation plan, that's where this council and the RPC can be updated through that.
A question, so I'm sure there will be fair reason with that. Otherwise, I'll start with Councillor Bevan.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions in relation to the plan, Helen. If you go to page 26, which is page 60 in our papers, it's got implementation plan. It's got A, by December 31st, 2014, develop an overall implementation plan in collaboration with Iwi and Hapu. Has that actually been done?
I tried to do it. So that policy came in through the hearing process in January 2014, and we put that date in thinking the processes and the decisions would have been done by then, but obviously the appeals have extended that. We have a draft plan change, implementation plan, and that will be put to the RPC in September. That process was to be done in collaboration with stakeholders and Iwi and Hapu. The engagement with Iwi and Hapu is supposed to be done based on Tikanga Maori with an engagement plan, and we haven't quite got the group together to sort of facilitate that part of the process. That's why it's still in draft until that happens. But a draft plan was presented to the primary sector group for their comment as to does it sort of cover all the things that we need to cover off. So that implementation plan is a high level one. So it's just sort of just so that we can sort of a touchstone, how is that part of the plan going in terms of progress.
I assume your response would be similar for 3A, which is the Maori monitoring framework.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Page 51, where we talk about minimum flow regimes, which have been changed. I know it's in here somewhere, and I know I've heard it, but I can't remember what the minimum flow at Redbridge gets increased from 3.5 cubic to 5.2, I think it is.
4.3 in 2018, and then 5.2 in 2023.
Okay, so we're at 3.5 until 2018.
Yes.
Okay. Can you take just? I'm not asking for a response off the top of your head because some of us are going do a bit of work on this. I'd like to know how many farmers would be affected in each of those scenarios, the 2018 scenario with the first increment and then the next increment to get it up to 5.2, based on the 2013 drought, and we'll have modelling that will tell us what the minimum flow rate at Redbridge was during various times during that drought. I want to know how many farmers would be impacted by going on ban in the lower provincial area.
So I can probably respond to that and tell you that they all will be. So anybody with they all will be. Anybody who has a consent issue that is linked to a minimum flow will be affected by these changes. I think probably what you're probably wanting to understand is, will the frequency of that impact be more often?
How much worse is it? Well, we know it's going to get worse.
And it will be worse. So we do have that information and reports that were generated as part of the hearing process that we can dig out and provide for you, that looks at what the reliability of supply is, regardless of how often you might expect to be put on ban, and it's not pretty.
No, it won't be pretty, but I think it's really important that we start to engender an understanding of the implications of all of this. And I'm particularly interested to know what our options are in terms of trying to resolve the problem that we've got here. Maybe in terms of augmentation of some sort, like we're looking at for hybrid, there might be an option there that maybe we're exploring, or some other option for emergency supply of water. I'm thinking immediate.
So there are a number of options, I guess, that consent holders have in the plan, and I'm sure Helen can add to it. Starting with emergency water, so there is provision for emergency water 200 litres a second across the catchment. We've got some interest in that, and I think we've actually issued some consents for those in the lower river for that. Realistically, in the longer term, to make that feasible for the whole catchment, we're going to have to look at some sort of globalised management of that. You can't do it on an individual basis.
So I'm just wondering whether you would maybe come back to us with some sort of report or some of those options
Okay.
that we're looking at. That would just better inform us as to what's going on.
Sure, because the other options that exist now is that the policy sets out levels of stream depletion based on where you are in the groundwater, so people have the access now of going deeper and not having that direct or immediate connection, and having some access to water. But I guess, yeah, we can probably provide a summarisation of that in a paper, so we'll in practice here's how it works, and these are the options they might have. And the other option, of course, is storage.
Yeah, so that was the last question I wanted to raise, Chair. And this goes back to the very front of the paper, which is page 37 in our board papers, and page 3 of the plan itself. The very last point, objective PP5, to enable the development of on-farm storage and community irrigation schemes. Well, obviously the community irrigation schemes is a reference to RWSS, but to enable the development of on-farm storage, that's going to be, I think, of increasing interest to a lot of the people, in particular in the lower Tuki catchment. I'm wondering what we can do to enhance or and better enable that option to be taken up by people.
Off the top of my head, I don't have a sensible answer.
No.
Maybe you can't look at that.
A commentary type question. Councillor Scott.
Two questions, if I may. One on the accompanying paper, one is just clarification, and I've picked up one particular objective in particular just around that. On our paper, item 5, it gives a little bit of the history. Was there not also a plan change stakeholders group that met originally to establish values, and actually did put quite some work into that? If I recall, I had about 4 meetings.
There was a stakeholders group that we tacked onto the back of the Ruritania Water Storage stakeholder group, as well as a more regional, national stakeholder group. From memory, we only met a couple of times before the actual processes were merged into Tukituki.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'm really asking, should we actually not note that that group did meet? It was around plan change, and it was around establishing values, common values. Sorry.
Remember the bit.
Just for the record, I think it's worth.
Perhaps that could be incorporated into the bodywork that comes to the RPC, rather than change this today.
Yeah.
Okay.
My second question really related to the requirement under on page 40 of our papers. On policy 1C, require industry good practice to be implemented. The ordinary meaning has to stand, and am I right in supposing that can only be required through those farms requiring a consent? We actually have no power to require anything under a permitted activity rule. We might recommend it, we might encourage, but we can't require.
I think that will be reflected in under the permitted activity rule. There is the requirement for environmental management plan.
Yes.
And within that process, there's a schedule of content that they'll need to demonstrate industry good practice around that.
Just adding to that, there is a requirement to develop procedure guidelines too with the primary sector. So we would have that discussion and get that agreement instead of looking to challenge everything that everybody did.
Right, further questions? Councillor Belford.
I just have 4 or 5 brief ones, if I could. First of all, is it correct? My understanding is that absolutely no part of this plan change applies to the RWSS. all their activities are governed by their consent conditions, is that correct?
Yes, they have a consent based on the provisions of this plan, and they need to comply with their conditions of their consent.
So the key point here is that the consents were issued pursuant to the plan, so under the plan, if you like, in the plan frame. But you're right, they have their own conditions.
Okay. And
So just a clarification of that, because if I look at page 44 in our papers, which is page 10 of the plan itself, land associated with operation of a community irrigation scheme, there's a whole lot of provisions, by my read, that apply, which basically incorporate the 0.8 in requirement through farm environmental management plans and
That was the answer we were just
scheme
given though.
implementation and all sorts.
That was the answer we were just given. I mean, this, correct, but the consent is based on
The
this.
mechanism to deliver.
Yeah, but based on this though.
so just, okay.
Sorry.
So then, based on your very helpful little preview and the other discussion about how consents work and so forth, the council could call in a consent to the RWSS if it felt a condition needed to be reviewed.
And in effect, the consent package, as I recall, has a review clause in it. It's annually reviewable again, like all of our other consents, and yes, like any other consent, we could call it in to review it
So
if we had new information.
So in that respect, there's no different standing than any other
So
consent.
it's treated exactly the same as any other
Okay.
consent.
Fine. On page, I guess I'm gonna use the papers numbers, on page 39, there's, policy TT3. Are the limits, that are in here, do they supersede the limits, for the current CHB sewage plants? What takes precedence at this point?
So again, what we're doing with the CHB system is we are now reviewing them against the plan to make sure that the conditions align with these policies, exactly you say, TT3. So we want to make sure that they align with that.
So as we evaluate ongoing the effectiveness of the treatment regime down there, it would be against these.
Well, we would review the consent and its conditions and its limits against the plan, because we wouldn't want a limit in the consent conditions, for example, that was less than the plan, or more than the plan. Or maybe more than the plan's okay, but certainly not less, for example. We would want to know why that was the case and what the rationale and justification for it was. We would have needed to have gone and tested that.
Okay. On page 41, there's a discussion of what happens when if by 2020 the nitrogen limits are exceeded. And in the discussion of all of this at the last meeting, which I watched on the video, there seemed to be a supposition that basically maybe all of farming properties in the catchment could exceed this at that point. Did I hear that correctly? I think that was asserted by somebody who was presenting that.
So I'm not sure what the question is. Are you saying?
Well, this what at the top of the page, item G,
Yeah.
deals with, okay, if these particular nitrogen conditions are being exceeded, then it triggers a consenting requirement, right? And the question I had was, is the expectation that most properties in the catchment will be in excess of that limit in 2020?
Well, I think I can't remember the detail of the maps that were produced, but there's a fair part of the catchment that's already exceeding the 0.8 din and will require resist consent
Right,
immediately.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So then my only comment about that is that there's a reference then back to, on page 63, that you'll work out a procedure, that you'll work with, it's in a footnote here on page, 63, develop a procedural guideline in collaboration with primary sector representatives. So those consents will be all about what kind of conditions need to be further placed on those farmers to be able to work toward meeting this limit. And I would just suggest that in working out that procedure and what those conditions might be, that there be representation beyond the primary sector users of the water. There are other interests that presumably would need to be balanced in that process, including environmental concerns, articulated by somebody who holds those concerns with a fair degree of passion. That's
Is Councillor Belford suggesting a totally different approach to the consenting process? Is he requesting that such consents are notified? What is he requesting?
No. It just there's a process laid out here that is going to involve some consultation, as that footnote indicates, to figure out, okay, what's our procedure? How are we going to flesh out these consents? What kind of conditions might be contemplated and so forth. So all I'm raising is my understanding of A, is that a correct understanding of what the process will be, and B, if that's true, I'm just suggesting that that you might want to broaden the representation of the people you consult on that.
And that's certainly one of the tasks that are listed in the implementation plan to do. And the group that's used for that, as you rightly say, it's not specified anywhere specifically. So I'll just point out to in policy 2016, it supports that the Regional Council will support the establishment of a multi-stakeholder group in the Tukituki catchment for the purpose of developing implementation plans and facilitating input into the development and delivery of the specific implementation measures. So there is a mechanism there where the things might be developed with one sector, but they get brought back to a multi-stakeholder group. So this is how we've approached it.
And where was that?
Policy 2016
Page
1C.
16.
Page 16.
Page 16. So just adding to that, Councillor, so Helen's absolutely right, and in terms of moving into the implementation phase of this, I'm acutely aware of the need to bring in the broader interest in how we deliver the policy, and the TT16 usefully gives us guidance on that.
Yep,
we couldn't rewrite the footnote, but absolutely we would work up that stuff and then come back and say, look, this is where we've got to. What are the views on that?
Okay. And my last question is, to the degree that this plan obliges the council to implement a minimum flow regime at various points, how does the council in achieving that relate then to RWSS and its release of water, non-release of water, etc.? Is there any command authority there, or how does that interface occur? If low flows are suggesting we need more water released, how does that get